Okay, the recording's in
Set it up there. It
progress.
said, let's get this.
We are ready to begin. It is now 6:35. Welcome, everyone, to CB2's March Executive Committee meeting. I'm Susan Kent, Chair of CB2. We have a quorum, so we're going to begin. Our first agenda item is approval of the February committee minutes. Does anybody have any changes to these, edits, questions, anything? Yes?
I did.
Okay.
Yes, Shirley Scudder's modifications are accepted.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else has any? If not, I will take a motion to approve.
I think I was here, right? Did they say that they weren't, that I wasn't? I didn't look at them.
You were here last week.
No, it was in the,
Oh, it says,
doing the minutes.
The minutes.
Yeah, I think, is it noted on that?
it says you are,
Yeah.
I thought you were.
You know,
remember.
something, we'll make a note and we'll check it.
you're right. It says you're on Zoom.
It does, okay.
Okay, thank you.
It's secondhand information, just saying.
So
Okay, okay. You
But
know,
it's our one chance to do that, right?
get
Yeah,
it
but-
right.
your Zoom not counting.
Well, he doesn't count for quorum anyway.
Yeah, but were you on Zoom or you were here?
I was both.
He usually does that.
I walked over, began on Zoom.
There's no category for that. There's no.
So, and a second, and all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. My report, the only thing I have is I know that because we're now in the midst of the appointment process for our new members, I'd like just all the chairs of the committees to take a moment to think about what their committees might benefit from in terms of new members. If you're looking for somebody with certain experience, a certain profile that would complement, your current membership, I'd appreciate hearing because pretty soon Borough President's office is going to ask me, what are you looking for based on, they won't share all the applications with me, but if I put out there, like we're looking for small business owners or maybe families with young children, they will give a look for that. So if you think about it, shoot me an email if you have anything you'd like you'd like me to mention. We're getting a lot of new members. We're getting 8 new members at least. We currently are missing 7, and I know at least one person is not reapplying. So, there's a lot of new talent coming along. Yes.
Will we be actually enumerating and calling them out in the minutes or at the meeting so that we have, tell everybody who the new members are?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
That will be, I won't be the chair anymore, but, and if it's like last year, they probably won't get appointed until the beginning of May. But it also gives you a chance to go back to your committees and ask people what they think. Yeah. I have nothing else. This is my last exec committee meeting. Thank you all very much. I know, I survived, my gosh, yeah. It's bittersweet, but it's like, I actually really like these meetings. We do some really good work and we help really direct the board and come up with generating good ideas for where we're heading. So thank you all very much. And that's it for me. And I will turn it over to Mark.
Okay, thanks. So thanks. A couple of things. Obviously, the election of new officers is going to take place on Thursday. There is a paper ballot that we've prepared. It looks just like last year's paper ballot. In fact, almost all the names are the same, just in different places. Here's Will. Okay, let me get out of the way here. There's also an online ballot, and I will be sharing that just like I shared the practice ballot before last month. I'll be sharing that with everybody. It turns out that it is easier for the tally committee if you fill out the ballot online rather than on paper. And if you have a phone that can receive your email, it works very well on your phone. I just tested it again today. So that's an option that if you can do it, it's great. If not, there's paper. And for the first time since I've been doing this, we have a fully staffed tally committee before the meeting. So Andrew, our bylaws call for the representative of the borough president's office a representative from another elected official, and a committee chair. And so Andrew Chang that's misspelled, okay. Andrew Chang has no choice. One of our elected representatives had to recuse himself because the state Senate Ethics Committee said he can't do it. So maybe we need to look at the bylaws. I don't know. But Nicole Barth, God bless her, is going to step forward. And committee chair Susanna Aaron gets kudos from the office for stepping forward after I twisted her arm almost to the breaking point. So, thank you, Susanna. I can demonstrate, but I don't think I need to. You guys know how to use the Google Forms, right? Okay. Well, I'm going to distribute the ballot, the online ballot, on Wednesday. And the reason I'm doing it a day in advance is that if there are any glitches with transmission, let me know. We'll have a day to fix it. I don't expect, knock wood, but that's how we're going to do it. Oh, and I think yesterday I sent around the list of the email addresses I have for you. And some folks have already corrected it, and I thank you for that. That's the address to which your ballot will be sent. So if you want to vote, make sure that I have the correct address. With the chair's permission, we are hiring Mark Moss and Harris Studios to quote unquote produce the full board meeting. And in a change from the previous times we've hired Mark, we've hired him to use his equipment instead of him using ours. This is not a sustainable model because the charges will be more than our budget could bear unless we want to sell the photocopier. So starting in fiscal 26, we're going to have to rethink this, but for the rest of fiscal 25, which as I think you know is through June, we'll do our best to make sure that that's within the budget and so forth.
We're really just trying to get some breathing room, stabilize the production so that we can have somebody re-examine get our consultant in, and so that, just tie this over until we're.
Yeah. Our consultant has hit upon some hard times, but she's the one that made the equipment that worked. So I'm hopeful that we can get her back. And the idea is to not just have her consult in this room, which was successful every time we tried it, but to actually have her come with us to launch the meetings going forward. Okay, enough about that. A quick note about the June calendar. It's in your materials. Last month, we decided to have full board move from full board would have been Juneteenth. Obviously, we can't do that. So we moved it a week later. That didn't work. So now we're going to move it to Wednesday, the 18th. All that means is that the board package gets compressed, and we do have an obligation to get it out there the day before. So just please make a mental note of that. The April agendas were for the committees whose agendas are not driven by applications received. The April agendas are going to go out in the e-blast this Friday, we hope, if everything aligns. So please get me your agendas if you haven't already. Some of you have, and that's great, and I thank you. In your package and online, folks at home, there's an email that came in maybe a half an hour ago that has the amendments to the minutes we just talked about. It also has the first draft of the agenda for the full board. That's the list of committees from whom we expect resolutions. So if there are resolutions coming from a committee I don't have on that list, please let me know by email in response. The Airtable, thanks to everybody who's helped with the naming protocol. We're basically ready to go. Beta NYC has created a widget for us, a word I'm not comfortable using, but that's what they call it. And it will automate some part of the renaming function. And the more we automate, the fewer keystrokes will lead to errors that mean that you'll never find the document you thought you had. And Fran is back from his month in Asia, so he's raring to go. So I'm hopeful that by the time of this report next month, we'll have something interesting to report. We are submitting a letter to our council members asking them to please increase the community board budget. And I will go in person on Friday to a omnibus meeting. The Government Operations Committee is holding a meeting on budgets for like 6 agencies, and they didn't even name community boards as one of them. But a bunch of district managers are going down to make the case that not having had anything other than a salary dollar for dollar increase based on the collective bargaining agreement, we haven't had a meaningful increase in our budget in over 16 years. And of course, everything costs the same as it did back in 2009, so what's the big deal? Let's see, offsite update, only SLA 1 and 2 as of right now will be in a different location than usual. It's again going to be at Lennox Health Greenwich Village. And then just before I walked in, you may remember that we were being audited by the Comptroller's Office last summer, and that they were going to audit not whether we have resolutions and agendas and minutes, which is what they usually do. They wanted to know how we spent our money and whether we followed correct protocol. And you may remember me saying, that's actually an audit of FMS, not of us. Well, they've terminated the audit. So I don't know if I dodged a bullet or if they woke up or what, but that's a good result for the office. I think that's everything from me, unless there are questions.
One question following up on audits. Have we disposed of all the old community board equipment?
Absolutely not.
That's like,
Do you know what I have to do?
I know that's why I was just asking, because we can't, just sort of like, we have a stack of old stuff that we can't get rid of until
I'm
it's
actually
properly
obligated-
sold or auctioned.
It has to
or
go
whatever.
through a whole procedure
I have
that's
to
laid out.
notify DCAS, the Department of Citywide Administrative Services, and hold an auction and
Yeah.
sell at pennies on the dollar equipment that only my cousin Bill, who has an inventory of Nintendo NESs that still work, only he would be a bidder in this auction. So yeah, no, I'm not
But
doing it.
Josh started to do that and found a website, but if we put it on there, anybody here could spend a few pennies literally
And then
to
get
win
stuck,
it,
and
and
get
then it
stuck
could
with
be
the
gone.
stuff. Is it,
What you got?
Yeah.
Never mind, I'll pay you whatever those pennies are.
To take it.
is it possible for us to transfer this to another, as property, give it to another agency who is better equipped
Ah.
to dispose of it?
Name me an agency who's willing to do that.
I don't know. I'm just saying is that
Do
there,
you have any dirt
other
on any
ones,
commissioners?
I'm just
here?
thinking about that other agencies
If they came in, they may
routinely
not
dispose of things and might, whereas for us, it is a burden because we're unfamiliar with it.
Yeah.
Well, and because there's only 3 of us.
Right,
I
right.
don't know if Janine's not here, but the process was figured out. It's just you have to do all the steps to list it, literally put it on there. It has to go through whatever the bid rules are. But there is a website where they sell from many agencies the stuff, but it's just somebody has to sit there and
Sure, one more thing to
do
do.
each one.
I'm curious.
I have to go
Let's see.
All right, well,
look. but-
Because we have nothing better to do with our time.
okay. So, all right, I don't see any other questions.
Any more, no more questions for Mark? Thank you. Okay, let's start with, I'm sorry, the calendar.
Thanks for getting the space.
Surplus
Oh,
auction.
I'm gonna look at it.
Oh, how exciting. Okay, Mark told us about the June amendment. Anything else in April or May that we want to? Any issues with that? I don't see anybody online with any problems.
Actually, can I jump in on that for one
Sure.
quick second? There was a discretionary thing. Eventually, human services kind of got X'd out. And this is a question for Patricia. Since usually schools and education is the 4th Monday.
Yeah.
But that's going to be the last day of school. So I left you on the 16th instead of moving you to the 23rd of June.
Uh-huh.
You don't have to tell me right now, but I want to highlight that for you so you can decide what you want to do.
Okay.
So I moved, since we moved full board to the 3rd week, I moved human services and traffic and transportation back to their usual slots. So Shirley, your meeting is now June 24th, which is where it would ordinarily be. Okay? Okay, good. Okay, sorry.
All right.
Thank you. If there's nothing else with the calendar, then we will go to our standing committee reports, and we'll start with Candace.
So we are meeting tomorrow, actually, and we have no applications. We have an application for April that we just did an extension for, so we could focus on this for our meeting tomorrow. We are considering the proposed amendments to the proposed amendments on public convenience and advantage. Some of those are very interesting. They're hoping to create a minimum set of distances within which PCA request is not available. So nothing under 500 feet is what they're trying to do. If there's more than one license within the buffer, you can't do it at all. It's a waiver, proximity waiver. Nobody knows what that is at this point. And limits request until existing dispensaries have been open for at least 9 months. So any impacted business, like when Curaleaf was coming in last month, those two businesses, well, there are two businesses, so it wouldn't have been allowed anyway under this if this is adopted. But one of those dispensaries hadn't been open 9 months yet, so it's also wouldn't have been. Limits request, additional municipal notice requirements. So those PCA statements are coming directly to the municipalities. We have 45 days. There has not been clarity on whether we will be afforded extensions as we are in the regular NTMs, and they're going to tighten everything up with a form. So all of the same materials, if somebody requires a waiver, that goes to the impacted businesses. They get the same information, the statement in the application, we get it, and the CCB gets it. Here's the trick. Within all of that, they're also trying to reduce the 1,000-foot rule to 500 feet.
Really? What was, what?
Sneakily. Anybody who hasn't been reading OCM stuff for the last 3 years might not even catch that that's what they're doing because it's so much gobbledygook. So that's what we're doing tomorrow, resolution Thursday.
You're trying to change it from 500 to 100, you said?
No, they're trying to change it from
1,000
1,000 to
Wait a second.
500.
Okay,
They're reducing
okay.
it by 50%.
Got it.
What was the rationale for that? Just.
They're just trying to take the guardrails down.
Makes life easier for.
They don't
Yeah,
have
yeah.
enough space
So that was, yeah, that's,
to give everybody licenses who qualified. That's really what it is.
Right.
They're trying not to get sued more.
okay.
They're going to get sued more anyway by the people who have dispensaries that are impacted.
Thank you. Human Services, anybody here to give Susanna's report? Or did she send one in?
She has a resolution.
I mean, I can go back to this
Yep.
afterwards. So let's go to land use.
We had an easy month. We did not have our meeting, so there are no resolutions for this month.
Nice. That's a great report. Thank you. Landmarks. Well, Chenault is not on and Susan G is not on, so I will come back. And I will also come back to and nobody's here for, Valerie will probably be on later. So, parks.
Yeah, we had a meeting that was attended by 200 people, 120 in person, 83 on Zoom, no resolution, but copious notes. Care to read them. It was a discussion about the space called P3 in Hudson River Park in Pier 40. And it was an opportunity for the community to give their opinions on what should go into the space.
And they did.
Yeah.
But it was helpful.
Good. Yeah, I think so. Everyone seems that it was helpful, and thanks for attending. And yeah, we just let everybody talk, and we tried to hold minutes, and
Yeah.
some did. Yeah, and so I think it kicks off a process. I think Noreen Doyle, the president and CEO of Hudson River Park Trust, was very appreciative. I think the P3 guys were very appreciative. I think the leagues were very appreciative. So we're off on a process, and since that time, they've also extended. I tell you this, they gave them the permits for the summer to do summer ball or the camps, and they gave them enough time for indoors so the kids can go indoor in the summer. So
That's the most important thing.
yeah, it's progress, and yeah, no interruptions. Right? So,
All those groups can apply for the new,
absolutely right. Yeah,
recreate whatever.
yeah, and they've been given clearance to do that, and the truth is their board had really eroded away, and the oversights were a little lax, but that's all been repaired. So it was a bit of a wake up call. Hopefully it goes on, hopefully it goes forward and the right outcome comes about, and we don't, I was really concerned about looking like we were rigging it, and I tried to, I don't know who's going to propose. There will be other proposers. Is that a word? Yeah.
If anything, it looks more transparent.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah.
so,
Well, most importantly, all the groups can participate. Nobody's excluded.
Exactly.
yeah.
So
But, yeah, so
existing groups.
good meeting. Thanks for everyone who attended or who helped set it
It's
up or
interesting.
choreograph it.
For some of us that didn't know anything about all of that, it was good to learn
I'm
about.
glad, yeah. glad to hear.
Okay, if there are no questions for Rich, then we'll do schools next.
We met, when was this? February? And we had, we had Superintendent Kelly McGuire come and give an overview on the district's response to enrollment of asylum-seeking families and protocols to place in place to protect students in ICE interventions. He basically told us that we have in our district about 1,500 to 2,000 asylum-seeking students. That there are protocols in place that prevent ICE from coming in, and they gave them, they trained the staff and so forth. They said there was a dip in attendance, about 10%. We had a robust discussion with online people as well as people in the room that came. We wrote a resolution opposing the January 13th, 2025 directive allowing ICE in schools. And it's therefore be resolved is really extensive. So I think I'm gonna have to summarize that because it goes on
Sounds
forever.
good.
Yeah. Okay, so that was basically our meeting.
Okay.
And there was unanimous in favor.
Any questions? Nothing. Let me just quickly give Susanna the Human Services report. The committee met on the 27th with 2 agenda items. The first was a conversation with visiting neighbors about its work and the trends that they're seeing in older adults in our district. This produced a report. And second, there's a resolution about the changing of language on the Stonewall National Monument. This item was discussed at exec last month, but I will note there was no quorum at the committee, so this won't be an actual official committee resolution. And that's it for Human Services. So next is SLI.
Okay, SLA, let's see, SLA 1, we heard 8 applications, SLA 2, we heard 7. Nothing is that outstanding, except we were able to waive a number because we're starting to get the outdoor. So in SLA 1, we had, it was like 5 open streets. We had stipulations signed on those ahead of time. That was being waived. We were able to waive, I think there was a corporate change and another outdoor, we were able to waive on that. They signed the stipulations with that 10 o'clock and that. And same thing on SLA 2, we waived 2 of those. It's a little, like we said, we're trying to, either they had it before and it was 10 and 11, but we're basically, it's 10 o'clock. If people are willing to agree to that, somebody can always come back at some later time, but we'll consider waiving that unless they've had other issues and things. We're gonna have to see how this goes with the community. They've been told it, but, people don't necessarily want the outdoor dining. And, we can't say no to everything if there's no real reason to do that. Aside from that, nobody wants it out there when they had it before for some of these people. So it's going to be a process of just rolling this out and we've got more of them in for next month. I'm sure I haven't looked through all of them. So they're going to start hitting SLA now because they're starting to get the approval. So now they're all going to have to come to SLA. So we'll see what we can do because it's going to be a few hundred of them.
Yes. Thank you. Any questions for Donna? Okay, street activities.
So.
Gonna come closer.
Yes, we do need to hear you.
So we heard 5 applications this month, 2 no-shows. 4 of the 5 were approved. 1 was a deny. The one that was a deny is interesting because it's essentially an art installation plus a film shoot happening on the Gansevoort Plaza where they wouldn't tell us exactly what it was for. And so we basically said, look, from what they told us, it didn't seem like it was that crazy compared to some of the stuff we've seen, but we didn't want to approve without knowing what it was for. So that was essentially a deny. We basically said deny unless they're able to tell us before we have our full board meeting, which we haven't heard anything else from them. Weirdly, I Googled Gansevoort Plaza Automotive Light Show, and just FYI, there are now AI articles that are being written about stuff like that. And there's like literally the first thing that came up is an AI article referencing our committee meeting, written by AI, talking about this automotive activation, which is kind of crazy, actually.
That is.
What did you think?
It's like ripping it off of our.
They're doing that on a bunch, it's a bunch of the committees are getting that.
Interesting.
Yep, I'll do that in the group too, yep.
Everything's.
What did you think of
Everything.
that article?
I literally just pulled it up right now, so I haven't had a chance to read through it.
It's so unsettling.
It's really interesting. Let's see. And then besides that, one of the other things we noted, so that sponsor for that one and another event that we heard is a permit expediter. And we had an issue with an event last month sponsored by that permit expediter where, and this has now happened a few times with different applicants, where the ultimate client of the expediter has no idea that they had to get this approval, go through the meeting, and then there's no one on site at the actual event that knows what they agreed to or talked to us about in the meeting. So we mentioned that in one of our resolutions, and we actually added an additional, therefore, basically calling on SAPO to look into this and require that there's at least one person on site from the actual applicant for each of these events at all times. Like if the applicant's an expediter, they have to have someone on site. And what was kind of ridiculous was that the applicant, AKA the expediter, told us, oh, we couldn't have someone on site because they didn't want to pay us extra money to be on site. It's like, well, you have a responsibility because you were the applicant. But then they, swore that that was a really bad client and they never worked with them again, and they were really sorry.
Until next time.
So let's see. Other than that, we had a presentation from a member of Manhattan's Solid Waste Advisory Board, or MSWAB. The focus was on the rollout of the organics program, which we had already heard from DSNY on, but we got a little more detail about how it's going so far, which is not great. I think they said 6 to 8% of organic waste in CD2 is going through the organics program. The rest is going into landfill. Which there's not a lot of educate. I mean, they've tried to educate people, but a lot of people still don't know about it yet. A lot of buildings aren't participating. Fines are going to start April 1st. And so we have details on those in here. They start out low, but it is going to start impacting people theoretically. And yeah, I think it's just a good organization also to establish more of a relationship with, because they're kind of like a borough-wide community board that's only focused on waste and sanitation. They're appointed by the borough president like we are. So it's an interesting organization. I think hopefully we'll build more of kind of a reciprocal relationship, getting to know them more. That's it.
Well, do they think that the slow uptake is just education?
I think it's lack of education.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so they actually asked us ideas for how to better educate people. We suggested maybe having some programs in schools talking about how it works, going through neighborhood associations, tenants associations, different stuff like that. We already told them about block associations, so they're going to try doing that. They compared it to Seattle, which is apparently at the best in the country. They're at 60% of organics going through a composting organics channel. But Seattle, interestingly enough, has a pay for waste program. So they actually will charge you more for however much waste you're putting into the system.
Oh.
So if you just throw away, your food into the landfill, you actually have to pay more, which a lot of places in Europe apparently have that too. But Seattle is one of the only places in the US that has done that, which is interesting.
It's a fine of a sort, right?
It's a stick, basically.
Yeah, it's basically saying, all right, well, if you want to throw your stuff in the trash, you're going to pay more. So go put it in the proper channel.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Incentive. Katie.
William, I went to one of the Zooms about this program. I live in a very large co-op. It's 42 buildings, 420 apartments. And, I've been asking our co-op board to have some education, but when they sent us these teeny little brown buckets to put the compost in, and it's not sufficient for our population.
So yeah,
I'm just saying. I'm just saying the rollout doesn't seem to be hitting the streets very well. And I don't know what to do about it beyond being on the board and asking them about it.
Yeah. One of the things that a lot of people don't realize is you don't actually have to use those buckets. You can use your own bins as long as they latch closed. There is a size limitation, which I don't think he told us exactly what it was, so I'd have to look it up. But yeah, I mean, we all have those buckets and they're small, so it does present an issue. So I'll see if I can find out what the size limitation is, because it was mentioned by him in the call.
Thank you.
Who's gonna police? I wanna see who I'm avoiding.
DSNY, I guess, they have an enforcement arm. It's not that many people, but they do have an enforcement arm.
It's pretty obvious whether people are doing it or not.
Yeah, I think like, it's not gonna be like, oh, there's one scrap of, I don't think it's gonna be like, oh, there's one scrap of food in your black garbage bag, here's a fine. Like, I think they'll probably start with people where it's like, not putting out any compost at all.
That's what I mean, yeah, okay.
That would be my guess.
Okay, nothing else for Will. Shirley, we'll do traffic.
Yeah, so, oh, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, because sometimes I don't. Okay, so we didn't have a meeting. We did have a walkthrough for the 9A study, and I think it was pretty productive. It went all the way through two boundaries of Community Board 2 from 14th to Canal, and they were divided in half. And so two of us from Community Board 2 went, and then there were people from the electeds and from organizations, and Katie was there. Katie brought an hour, and she might want to say something. One thing that really hit me was that there really is a tremendous need for more crossings across 9A for safety purposes. And I had forgotten, and it suddenly occurred to me why they hadn't happened in the first place. And this just shows you how attitudes change. When 9A was first being planned, the community was adamant about not having too many crossings because they were worried that the traffic would all run through their narrow streets. And now we need a remedy. So anyhow, that's it. But I think it was quite productive. I put on the chat a link to a description of the 9A study from the state DOT. If you want to take a look, it's there, so that you get an idea at least of what they're planning to do. This was just the beginning. There will be lots of community input. They have all different kinds of workshops to the extent of having workshops open to the full community, and then things in between. So they seem to be really trying to do a thorough job.
Great.
Just a minute, sorry, just to go back on, whenever she's done, I want to go back on the compost thing, but I don't want to interrupt.
Okay. Yes, Eugene.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on the 9A study that, there is that overlap, as Shirley mentioned, with land use, specifically for the Gansevoort Square housing development. Katie has been going on being involved as much as possible on these. So, I think one thing of note I'd like to bring up to everyone is that the state highway, New York State DOT was not aware at all of the housing development that is being proposed at Gansevoort Square. Although it's part of it's assumed that the state will hand over this little triangle of property that's required for making the housing development work.
They've been telling us that it's a done deal.
And it's not a done deal.
That's right. No. But you're absolutely right. They really did not know a lot. And I think that's why a lot of these sessions will be productive, because we do have so much to tell them.
There's still nothing on here.
I found it very interesting in the land use meeting, and Shirley, you may have noticed this, that different groups refer to the West Side Highway or West Street.
Mm-hmm. Oh, right.
And the change happens.
9A.
Right, and the change happens in right where Gansevoort development is proposed. When you go north, it's viewed much more as the highway, because CB4 has a very different experience. Where for us, the street grid is all fit into our community going all the way down. And so extending that further north actually is part of the deindustrialization of the meatpacking district in a way that is much more calming and makes the river much more accessible. So when you think it through, there's a lot more at stake in what's happening right in that very small area for us and how everybody experiences different parts of our community and connecting it to the park. Everybody in that area thinks it's so far away because you have all these divisions. Where if the grid was extended right out into West Street, it would change the dynamic and perspective entirely. So I found that fascinating because I never contemplated that this development would allow that opportunity to connect it through that way.
So Katie had her hand up.
Yeah, sorry, I was up and down. What's interesting to me is that the people who are from state DOT and talking about Route 9A, West Street, whatever it's being called, they were the people who have the geometry of the turns, and not like an overview of how things connect. And at our land use meeting, the last one we had, Jeffrey LeFrancois from the meatpacking bid came, and he talked about, sort of thinking about the deindustrialization of 10th Avenue, the little of the very northern tip of the community board. And so I think the land use committee is thinking about that as well. Some of the street patterns there were to accommodate large trailers bringing meat in, and that's no longer happening. The only large trailers are going to one loading dock at the Whitney now for big pieces of art. And so, everyone has to rethink, and we need to talk to different people from DOT, but not the people who figure out how many degrees in an angle for a car to turn, which is, I think, who we were meeting on that last walkthrough with the Shirley and I went on.
Yeah. But my feeling was they were open. They took down everything we told them, and I found that encouraging. Maybe I'm being too positive. Whatever, we'll see. The other thing too is, when you go back to the original plan for 9A, they always called it a boulevard, but it really did not turn into a boulevard. So maybe we've got our chance now.
Shirley, did anyone bring up at the meeting, maybe considering a raised bridge, a foot crossing across 14th Street to connect that park?
Yes, that was, I don't know if it was brought up on the walkthrough. Do you remember, Katie? But I do know that it's been brought up in our meetings.
Okay.
Well, Jeffrey LeFrancois, the meatpacking bid, they have a plan, Patricia, for 14th Street,
right.
And they want to reimagine it altogether. They didn't talk about a bridge, Eugene. I don't think they talked about a bridge in their meeting, but they did talk about the fact that that's a problem, and there's that's a problem, and they want to address it. The meatpacking bid has some ideas to put on the table.
Super, you'd be shocked at the price of those.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just,
But at 14th Street.
That would be really, right?
no, I was just gonna say, I mean, when Eugene was mentioning, state DOT wasn't aware of what was going on against, we identified this a long time ago when we were talking about resiliency along the west side, that there's this smorgasbord of organizations that all have different jurisdictions. They don't talk to each other. And honestly, this study is not solving that problem at all. And we talked about it before, but it's pointless almost to do this study without bringing in the concept of resiliency, because you can draw up an ideal, design of the West Side Highway for pedestrian safety, and then if you put a giant wall where the bike lane is now, that all completely changes. Right. Or if you do a berm, or you do something. So I was looking through just the website talking about the study, and they don't even mention resiliency once, which is interesting.
They responded to us by saying they are including resiliency. So please take advantage and get in whatever you can, Will.
Yeah. Well, hopefully they do, because right now it doesn't, they don't talk about it.
Understand what it means, but they're saying that they will include resilience.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, Will, I just want to say one thing for Will to put in his bank. Maybe 30 years ago, when they were planning the rebuilding, which happened 25 years ago, there was a plan to put a huge tank underneath Route 9A, a holding tank for an enormous storm event like Sandy. And I don't know why it was abandoned, price, too much other infrastructure. Maybe there wasn't room for it under, but there was an idea that was not going to be a berm or a wall, but was going to be hidden and would have been effective. And we saw during Sandy, those of us who remember Sandy, that there were a couple construction sites. 150 Charles is a construction site, and those filled up with water. They were huge, huge holes in the ground, and they filled up with water, and they saved the buildings a little bit to the east.
Yeah.
So we saw it in action at the time.
Yeah.
Shirley, is there anything else that you want to add to your report?
No, that's it. As I say, just take a look at the overview.
Okay.
When the chance comes, everybody please participate.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now Chenault's here, so why don't you give us your report?
It is that there's no report.
Wonderful, thank you.
Three applications, all of them very difficult townhouses, in various reconfigurations, and that was it.
Okay. Okay, Ivy, do you have anything for us that you want to share? Ivy is not there. Okay, since Valerie hasn't been able to join us.
Ivy's back.
Oh, Ivy's back. Ivy, is there anything you wanted to share with us?
We didn't meet. The only update is that I'll be leaving the community board. So I guess I'll connect with you about processing who the next person would be. I did talk to Mark and also Andrew. So the end dates is somewhere late April, May.
Well, technically the 60 days. It depends when your replacement is appointed, that's like your end date, but in any event, it doesn't go more than 60 days past the end of March. Yeah. So you'll expect probably another 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah. So Andrew has a different end date. He said it's kind of like they don't have like an exact pinpoint date. Depends on the nominations as well.
Exactly. Exactly. It depends upon how the reappointment process goes.
Well, thank you so much for, I know this is your last day as well, but yeah, thank you for the opportunity, especially during COVID, to be in the space. That was extremely meaningful to me.
Thank you.
Thanks, Irene.
Thank you.
Okay, Valerie is not online, I guess, so we're not going to have that. I'm sorry. Oh, do you have a report for outdoor dining that you want to provide us with?
Sure.
Thanks, Carter.
I have no idea how many applications we heard, something like 27, 28, something around there. And
It was 32.
Yeah, we could all do this. So it went pretty smoothly, I think, right? Got through them all, and there are more coming. I mean, I don't know how many got referred. I think probably 18 or 20 got referred a week ago. I don't know what got referred this week. It's usually on Mondays, so I haven't gotten an update on that. And I'm assuming we're meeting next week. I think anything else?
Valerie had mentioned that because of her testimony at the public hearing, that the board was being overwhelmed, that they reduced the number of referrals each week to 15 to 17.
Yeah, something like that. Instead of
We're averaging 25 to 28 for every week, including Christmas and New Year's.
And now we're down to.
And so the last 3 weeks, it's been 18, 15, and yesterday it was only 2 emails of 6 each for 12.
Wow.
And one of the 15 the week before was actually in Brooklyn, so I don't know what we're supposed to do with that, but anyway, they do seem, Valerie's testimony it's the only thing that's different.
Oh.
There's still that many applications pending, so anyway.
And I guess
We have so many,
Right.
still, I don't know what the percentage is of the whole program.
We have about 15 or 17% of all applications filed citywide.
Nice.
And they're getting through the roadway, so it seems like we're starting to get more of the sidewalk and the roadways.
The second week in a row in which we have more sidewalk than
Sidewalk and
roadway,
roadways.
75.
Interesting.
Cool, interesting.
So,
Yeah.
when is the first official day of outdoor dining? Like when you're gonna see shed or?
You're not gonna see roadways.
No sheds.
Umbrellas.
You will never see sheds.
I don't know, they're gonna, April 1st. April
figure out
1st.
a way to shed up those.
Set it up.
So April 1st?
April 1st.
April 1st, and they won't all have permits by then. But now they're taking the position that if you had one before, you can put
And if
back
you're-
a
and if
compliant.
Had your meeting.
If you're in process,
I mean,
they will allow you
no.
to.
If you're in the process and you've had your one public meeting, then
Which is like saying
go for
that,
the roadway. I think for the sidewalk, it just keeps going.
which is like saying that the proprietors know how to comply with the rules and they know how to measure things and all that, which we have found out it's much the other case. We have been, just as an anecdote, we have been denying anything in the street where there's not a 15-foot emergency lane. Unless the fire department has already issued the waiver. But anything that's just pending or some are just obviously needed, they haven't asked for it yet. We just, we give our other reasons for denying, but that's always one reason. Crazy, it's crazy.
Anything else from,
Just to come back really quickly on that compost bin question, I just looked it up. Those brown bins that the city gave out and is now selling are 21 gallons. You can go up to 55 gallons with so I don't know why they're not doing larger ones.
That's a lot.
But I know Katie had asked about it. If you have a container that's up to 55 gallons, you can label it with a free compost label that the city will give you, and you can use that.
Okay.
So the labels.
The label's
label's
free.
free.
They were giving out a free bin. Building, you could get a free bin before. Now they're done with that, and now it's like $45 for a bin, which seems overpriced.
Just to point out, a 55-gallon garbage can full of compost is probably gonna be very, very heavy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Oh, that's,
And
Yeah.
attractive to our furry friends.
Absolutely.
Well, you could do a metal bin that latches.
There you go.
Just saying, it's heavy. You
Yes.
better use
Oh,
multiple
that's
small
true.
ones.
yeah,
That's
that's a couple 100 pounds or more.
Yes, Chenault.
Do we have any recourse, or has it come up about the really idiocy of not being able to use a conforming bin that one has with a label again, after the certain date that it said you must buy one from the city?
No, you can. You don't have to buy it from the city. You can keep using the bin as long as you put the label on it and it latches and it's under 55 gallons.
That's
For
compost, sorry.
non-compost things as well.
Non-compost, you can use a non-conforming bin for another year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, you're out. Yeah. This last
It's
meeting.
It's
did
true
not-
for both regular garbage and compost.
Okay. Yeah, we didn't talk
It was
about,
originally not that way.
yeah, we did not talk at this last meeting about the containerization program for regular garbage. The swab is not as involved in that. So that would have to be a question directly to DSNY.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else on that? Yes, Emma.
None of that.
Well, otherwise, I'm going to ask for new business because we're done with our report.
Okay, perfect. That's what I was.
Go ahead.
Just a quick note, I'm supporting Valerie and Susan in a little bit of record keeping, so I may be bugging you about exceptional circumstances forms that you may or may not have. Not a big deal, but that is the context for my email that folks might get.
Okay.
Yeah. Figured, yeah, get the context in here.
We love the.
Straight up, yeah.
Yes, Ivy.
It's interesting that you were talking about the trash bin because actually the contract is with Uline. And it's one of the biggest private company that is super right wing in the city. would
For which one? The compost, the brown bin?
For the ones that we currently use, for the trash.
Brown bin?
Yeah, but all the bins, and I'm assuming the brown bins as well, the contract is with Uline and it's one of the biggest like private, right-wing, family-owned company. And I just think like that's kind of crazy that New York would award such a enormous contract without, but anyway, another dark part of life.
There's a very specific procurement process for any vendors in the city. And if they won, it was probably because they came in
Low bid.
Lowest bid.
Oh, yeah, you cannot beat them because they're one of the biggest like
Yeah.
boxing, chemical bins as well. I mean, they're huge, but it's a private company that is extremely, yeah. Anyways.
Alas, any other new business? If not, motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, second.
Okay, thank you all. See you Thursday.
So you can
Thanks,
get a
Susan.
city bus for $100 on this website.
No way.
But